Got it. I think we are live, friends.
Okay, great.
We are live.
Great. Fantastic. Good stuff. I'm so sorry for those of you who were waiting in the waiting room. My apologies. We had some technical glitches there, but it seems as though we are here with you now and we are live. My name is Stephanie Kusie. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary Midnapore. Great news. This is a constituency week. We sat for 5 consecutive weeks. It was a lot of back and forth to Ottawa, but finally this week we have a week that we are back in the riding with our constituents. It's great to be with my constituents. And it's kind of a special time here in Alberta as well, Michelle, because we have the election going on, which is something really significant. So I've been helping the 4 different Conservative candidates in my riding. Whatever your political stripe is, please just get out there and vote. Very important for the future of Alberta. Federally, we have had a lot of stuff going on. We have the foreign interference. David Johnston gave his sort of verdict as to what he would like to see happen. Not surprising. He doesn't think a public inquiry is necessary, which is kind of shocking considering when you look at all the evidence of all of the interference that we have seen, everything from the police stations to the CSIS leaks to our good colleague Michael Chong having been preyed upon, frankly, and his family as well in China. Very shocking that we don't have the outcome of the necessity of a public inquiry. And of course, we as Conservatives are demanding this. We have the news of the second carbon tax, as though one carbon tax wasn't enough. We've got a second one where Canadian families will be paying for more on gas, groceries, and home heating. And then finally, of course, the last day before the House left for this constituency week, we had our opposition day motion on opioid use and safe supply versus rehabilitation. And that is why I'm so very pleased to have this special guest here with me today. This is someone who really has a heart for mental health and sort of all of the different societal problems associated with it, whether it's domestic violence, whether it is drug addiction or any type of addiction, substance problems. Michelle Ferreri, my special guest from Peterborough, Kawartha, is here with me today. Michelle is just an incredible human being, and I'm so happy that all of you who are with me now and who get a chance to watch this have the opportunity to not only meet her, but to hear from her here today. She has an incredible background. She is an award-winning entrepreneur. She is a very well sought after public speaker. She is a journalist that saw her go all the way, I think, to the North Pole to be on an icebreaker, incredible things like that. And most important to me, as a Conservative, is that she is the first Conservative to hold this seat in 35 years, defeating Mariam Monsef, which is definitely quite a feat. But she's a wonderful person. I'm sure many of you follow her already on her social media. She's prolific. She's everywhere. And I absolutely love her show, People Before Politics. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, go and subscribe now. But it is such a joy and a pleasure to welcome here today my very good friend. She, if I may say, she recently gave me a beautiful pair of earrings as a birthday gift, the beginning of May. But like me, also a mother, I'd really like to welcome my very good friend, Michelle Ferreri. Michelle, welcome to Calgary Midnapore and to all of my viewers and my constituents. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And it's going to be it'll be a challenge for me today to call you Stephanie, because I just constantly call her Kusie. It's just like it's just how I refer to her. And she's been a really great mentor to me, and I'm really glad to be here. And I always love chatting with her because she always keeps it real. And I don't love light, fluffy surface talk. I like the deep, let's get to it. Let's get to the crux of the issue and let's fix it. So happy to be here, Steph.
Thank you. And of course, having done all of the advocacy work that you've done, you are now currently serving as the Shadow Minister for Families, Children, and Social Development. So perhaps you could sort of walk our viewers through the top issues that you're seeing in this portfolio at this time. I know definitely the addiction, as we talked about, but also you did a lot of work on the daycare piece that we've seen really sort of brought forward by the Liberals. Housing is, of course, tied into that. You just want to sort of give an overview to our viewers as to sort of the major things you've been dealing with as a part of this portfolio. And I think you're the perfect person for this portfolio, Michelle.
I think it's a curse. This is a tough portfolio because you're dealing with primarily social issues, right? And so it's a tough one when we get government involved. And as Kusie is like, as conservatives, we're very much like leave us alone. Like, you know, we like people to live their life, but the reality is there's always going to be a portion of the population that's always going to need help and support, and that's the reality. And the government has to ensure that they're giving the right people help and support at the right time, to ensure that they go on to live healthier lives and their children go on to live healthier lives. So I mean, you touched on the biggest issue, I think, that we saw, right? We saw the Liberals come out with one of their famous marketing campaigns. They love this, and it was $10 a day childcare. And so we recently studied it. It's Bill C-35 in committee. And so for those of you who are familiar with the process, you know, you go to committee, you bring forth witnesses, and you sort of really try to delve deep into what the bill is to see where the shortcomings are, where the gaps are. How do you strengthen a bill? How do you fix it? And everything the Conservatives have been saying is spot on when it comes to this ultimately marketing campaign, because it's poorly thought out. It doesn't have long view in sight. It's, oh, we have $10 a day childcare. Well, that sounds great. Who wouldn't want $10 a day childcare? Sounds pretty good, right? I mean, I have 3 kids. I can tell you childcare took a big piece of my paycheck. So $10 a day childcare sounds great. Few details they left out. Few details the Liberals left out. One, you can't access it. So, you know, there's no spaces available. There's literally childcare deserts, right? The second piece they left out is that this actually hurts the most vulnerable and the lowest socioeconomic class. Because the reality is, if you already had a space in these publicly funded centers that are eligible for this programming, great, good for you. You've now had your daycare costs cut. But if you're somebody, a single mom or somebody who's on low income, and you never had a spot in that center to begin with because you can't find childcare because there are no spaces available, you can't access this subsidized childcare. So it's actually hurting the more, and we had testimony on this in committee to hear this. The wait lists, like in some of these locations, were 4 times the amount. So they had spaces to hold up 3,000 to 4,000 people, but they had 12,000 on a wait list in some regions of the country. So, and the other issue, which we often see under liberal logic, is that it's only for a certain group of people, right? So we only want to talk about public and not-for-profit. We don't want to talk about faith-based centers. We don't want to talk about, you know, women-based entrepreneurs who are working out of their home, which is the ultimate form of feminism, right? And they're being left out in the cold with this. So there's a ton of shortcoming with this childcare, and they want to sell it to you as this kind of feminist movement. Oh, we're empowering women to go to work. Well, the reality is, in the messages and the stacks and stacks of emails I have from mothers, is they actually can't go to work. They don't even have that choice because they can't even get a childcare spot, because this marketing plan actually increased the problem where people started applying for even more, and they don't have a staff. They don't have the staff to meet the demand. So that's one of the biggest issues we've seen under this file. But to your point, again, we're seeing inflation, cost of living is a massive issue, right? It intersects every single file, as you've talked about. Public safety, which coincides with your opioid addiction. It coincides with your lack of bail reform. It coincides with homelessness. When we have people who are experiencing homelessness, they're not safe. They're not safe out there. People don't feel safe. If you've never been exposed to that kind of life, or you don't know, or you're afraid to take your kids downtown, we're seeing the death of downtowns because basically people don't feel safe. So, long answer to your question, but I think that would be the top issues that we're seeing.
No, I think that is an excellent sort of synopsis of the way the Liberals are, as you said, have a marketing plan. When I talk to Alberta operators, I think it was 67% of Alberta operators can't actually access this program. So everything you said is true in terms of all of the voids, the spots that haven't been filled by the Liberals in addressing that. And so your passion is mental health. How did that come to be for you? Why is that so important to you? And why do you think that is sort of your concern for mental health and the mental health of Canadians in everything that you do? Why does that exist within you? If you could let our viewers know.
It's a great question. And I guess I've never really thought about it. It's just always been something that's been around me. I come from a really, really big family. And so with a big family comes all sorts of personalities, comes all sorts of issues. And some of that comes with mental disorders. Some of that comes with all different things. But the one thing I always noticed is that your mood, your emotional and mental state dictates every relationship in your life. It dictates how you show up to work. It dictates how you parent. It dictates how you show up to your partner. So when we don't have the tools, knowledge, or resources to understand our feelings, emotions, our mental health, we don't function to our full potential. And so if we're not functioning at our full potential, that's not great. That's not great for us because every one of us has something amazing to give. Every one of us has a gift. It's really hard for our parents and our teachers and our own selves to figure out what that gift is. I've always said your gift is the thing you don't even see because it is so natural in you. You don't even recognize it. You're looking for something because you're thinking it's going to be this hard, big challenge, but it's the thing that is the easiest and that you just naturally do all of the time. And we often go on these life journeys, right? We kind of go through teenagehood and we go and we try all of these different things. And we end up usually coming back to who we were in our first formative years. But we're kind of pulled away from our identity. And that's good in a lot of ways because it allows you to see and to hunker down on who you believe you are. But with the mental health and mental disorders, what we've seen is a real inability to diagnose and treat the undercurrent of why somebody has what they have. We've created a society that gives you a pill, and it sort of says it's okay, you know, let's go drink and let's escape who we are rather than figuring out why and not recognizing that each emotion is actually super normal and owning it. And so then we kind of go on this long and it destroys lives. Like if you don't have your mental health, if you are not in a good headspace, you are not a good partner. So you're going to do not nice things to your partner. You may get divorced. You're not going to be a good parent. You're not going to be a good employee. So to me, it is like, I'm a visual thinker. It's like the umbrella from which everything else functions. Your mindset, your mind health, it's the motherboard of everything that is operational in our life. So if we do not invest in it and understand it, we're just going to keep going around in circles.
That is an amazing frame that you've given it, and you're just such an incredible communicator as well, Michelle. The way that you are able to articulate that. I have one more question for you before we get into questions that I've received from constituents and participants here today, and that is that when we decided to get together and have this Facebook Live, we wanted to make it around Mother's Day. So I'm going to ask you another really broad question. What type of mother do you think you are?
Ooh, that's a hard one, right? Because I think it's really hard to have a good sense of self-awareness when you are so deeply emotionally connected to beings that you love more than anything on the planet. It is a very cruel trick of the earth because it's like you can't see straight because you're too emotionally involved with your kids. I think I think what I want to be and what I hope I am, if you were to ask my kids, the number one characteristic or the thing I'm super like, it's the most important thing to me, they would tell you honesty. They would tell you that tell the truth. That would be probably the core value of what I have sort of taught my kids. Like my belief is that we can fix anything except if you're not here. Right. So I need to know what's going on in your life. I need you to be honest with me. You're going to go through some bumpy patches. I'm a pretty direct mom. I think I'm a pretty fair mom, I think. But I like having fun with my kids. I like traveling with my kids. We're very creative. We're a very creative group. So very cerebral, I guess, kids. And I don't know. I've never thought
those are
about
great
that question.
answers. Those are
question.
great answers. That's awesome. Good. Well, now that I've asked you some questions from myself, I'm actually going to go to some questions that I've received from constituents and participants. And I will, go to you for your response. And if you don't mind, I might sort of chime in as well if I have anything to add. Thank you. All right. Well, my first question is from Kenda. And she wrote that she has concerns about the IHR WHO amendments for health response for member states and violations to human rights and charter freedoms and Canadian Bill of Rights. I think this is the most complicated question, just so you know. They sort of get more in the ballywick of what we were talking about previously later on. And values for Canadian citizens. Why does Canada align with a global body that does not value our heritage or founding? Many policies are being taken from the UN influence, like the 17 SDG, so Sustainable Development Goals. So it sounds like this individual has a concern about maybe Canada and the government of Canada sort of going down the right path for Canada and maybe not looking to other nations in the world potentially.
So in particular, who are they referring to? The World Health Organization?
To the WHO. Yeah, this sounds to me.
Yeah, and I've heard this before too, and it's funny, right? Because I think this falls in line with the undercurrent of a lot of conservative values, which is autonomy, right? And being sort of self-sufficient, right? Self-sustainable. When we look at natural resources, for an example, why would we be relying on other countries when we have the resources to do that all on our own? And so I would say that this would probably fall under the same realm of an answer.
I agree.
We are our own culture. We are our own country. We don't need other people, other countries to tell us what we should or shouldn't do. We should have leadership within our country that dictates how we operate, that creates us, sustainable, makes us leaders so that others look to us for direction. I think would be my short answer to that question.
No, I think I like your point about autonomy. I think that's a very good point. All right, I'll move on to the next question from Tasha. I think you will like this one. She says, family responsibilities with older parents included in the 3-generation household, or how can we support the increasing number in this circumstance? Could we consider? Oh, this is interesting. She provides some policy options, blended mortgages, tax incentives to look after aging family, or childcare options that include grandparents, maybe remodeling grants for keeping parents at home with mobility challenges. Wow, there's a lot in that question, but certainly a lot of challenges within it, sort of the sandwich generation, but then a lot of potential solutions as well in terms of the tax incentives for aging family or childcare options. In your testimony with C35, did anything come up that sort of related?
Oh, we've had a froze here. Oh no. Oh no. Why are we frozen? Let's see what we got here. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. We're frozen. Let's see what's happening. I think we lost. Okay, I think I'm still on. Okay, I'm still here. Okay, so we'll wait for Steph to come back. I'll answer that. So sorry about that, guys. Thanks for being patient with us. So I think her question, she was asking me about if we heard testimony when we were doing C35 in relation to Tasha's question. So multi-generational families and how do we sort of help with a lot of that? And that actually came up multiple times when we looked at childcare, because so many women, so many families are relying on their parents, their in-laws to care for their children. And, I think this is a really interesting dynamic because, you know what, it's been shown that kids who are raised near their grandparents have higher empathy, higher compassion, higher intelligence. Like, we know that there's so many benefits of partnering children with seniors, but especially grandparents who love those kids like next level, right? I always made a joke. My mom, I'm like, what happened? Like, I wasn't allowed to have extra ice cream, but my kids could have the whole ice cream store if they wanted. So I think there's a lot of evidence out there to say, hey, let's keep these families together. Let's try to keep them. And we also know, I know my parents are aging, right? My parents are now 73 and 70. And I know that they want to age at home. So I think that is going to be the more we can do to keep people at home, I think is going to be critical. So I love, especially the idea of tax incentives, Tasha. I think you're bang on. Or how do we incentivize seniors as well to care for children without getting any clawbacks? I think those are really great, tangible, simple kind of solutions. The other thing I would say is that, we have to start getting, municipalities are going to have to start getting creative. And I know a lot of them are, in terms of adding coach housing on properties, right? So like granny flats. But like I just went and looked at a local RV dealer yesterday. And the RV was the Great Canadian RV. It's a local RV company, but they created, built, designed a 4-season RV that can withstand Canadian winter, so up to -40. That is beautiful, looks like a condo, and maybe you can put that on property for your aging parents. Welcome back, Stephanie Kusie.
Thank you. Great to be back. Great to be back. Pardon me.
So I'm just answering your question about all of the ideas, because I think Tasha has a great point. And I was just touching on how important it is for kids and grandparents to be as connected as possible. And so when we have a housing crisis, right? So this is the other issue that's deeply tied into our inflation crisis. We have all these young people who cannot afford a home and basically have given up on the idea of owning a home. So what can we be doing in terms of incentivizing municipalities, incentivizing the provinces to do that and to allow people to age out at home? I was married to an Italian, and a lot of the Italian culture, they did this long before, but like a lot of their kids would stay home till at least they were 30, which 30 is the new 40 and 40 is the new 50 and all of these things. But, if we can give our kids that runway, but the problem is that isn't even an option anymore because housing is so unaffordable, right? So we've got to look at all these kind of innovative options to ensure that we can bring housing more of a reality, but also that our parents can age gracefully with independence and autonomy and home, right? So having more options for in-law suites, whether that's, a coach house on the property, or I was saying before you got on here, Steph, I had a company locally that just commissioned a 4-season RV to withstand Canadian winter. It's beautiful. It's like a condo, like it's a gorgeous RV. Plop it on the property. So grandma and grandpa, or your children who can't afford a house, right? It's retailing for $79,000. They make the payments, they build up their credit, then they sell it when they're done. Like, we just have to get more creative. And then we also need to be on back to the homelessness issue, which wasn't really Tasha's question, but we need to be incentivizing wraparound supports for that too. But that was a great question, Tasha, because I think a lot of it comes down to ensuring that we're not clawing back, especially seniors who are on fixed incomes.
No, what a great comprehensive answer. Yeah, I couldn't
that you
agree.
heard half of.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's no, everything you're
I'm
saying, I
teasing
think,
you.
no, I appreciate that. Speaks to the recent Opposition Day motion we had on
Mhm.
housing. And I actually think Pierre Poilievre has some really good legislation around this where he
Does.
wants to incentivize municipalities that actually create dwellings. Because right now, as I understand it, the money is being distributed, but we don't know what the results are, and that we don't always end up with actually more places for people to live. So he's going to tie the funding, we're going to tie the funding to the number of dwellings that are actually built. And I actually think that's a really smart thing. I'm not sure about your area, Michelle, like Calgary is exploding. Like we are just getting
Mhm.
thousands of more Calgarians every single year, which is an amazing thing, but we need places to put them. So I'm a real big believer in an incentive such as that, which certainly ties into Tasha's question. I'm going to move on to the next one now that I'm back here, Michelle. And this one's from Jackie. This is a good one. She says, how do you believe Pierre Poilievre and the federal Conservatives are appealing to new female voters in the upcoming election? And I know you and I are we hold Pierre accountable to this, that he is resonating with families, working families, the people who are hustling, they're like loading the dishwasher in the morning before they run out for work, or they're trying to fit in a load of laundry in between their Zoom call. I know that this is my reality, and I know it's your reality as well. And I want you to know, I pump you up to him all the time and say, no, seriously, I say you have to use that Michelle Ferreri more. She's such an incredible communicator to this
Thanks.
fantastic demographic, which I think
She's not just a nodding head behind you while you
oh, well,
talk.
no, certainly not. But you speak so much to, I think, to such an important component of Canada, which are the moms that are powering this
Yeah.
nation in bringing kids to
Mhm.
soccer and to hockey and to piano and
Mhm.
making the lunches and doing the shopping. So
Mhm.
what stands out in your mind in terms
Mm.
of how we are addressing that, how we are attracting more female supporters or women who can see themselves within the Pierre Poilievre conservative vision of Canada?
I love this question. And if somebody's doing the social media or whatever, I hope they clip what I'm about to tell you because I think it's an important story.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. So I want on record that I believe fully that Pierre Poilievre will go down in history as one of the greatest politicians and elected officials and leaders of all time. And I'm looking at the time and the date when I say that, because I actually believe he is the Elvis of politics. He's a disruptor and he's coming in at a time and he is something that nobody has ever really seen before. I recently had breakfast with a mom and she told me, she said, Michelle, I never voted conservative till I voted for you. I've been a liberal my whole life, but I voted for you because I knew who you were and I knew the work that you'd done in the community. And I said, okay, so how do we get you on board with Pierre, our leader? And she said, I want you to ensure that my kids don't get stuck in addiction and that my kids are kept safe. She said, moms can figure pretty much anything out. And she's right. A mother will figure anything out. We are the ultimate CEO and problem solver of every problem. And there's many dads out there too. Just to be clear, I want to give credit where credit is due because we do have evolving family dynamics in 2023.
Indeed.
But I think what Pierre Poilievre gives mothers, and I think they will see it if they haven't yet, is truth. It's honesty and it's facts. And feelings are not facts. And Justin Trudeau came in and he gaslit females. He went directly for the women because he knows that women are the decision makers in homes. They really are. Like they are the CEO of the home. And he swooned them and wounded them and told them words. And now you see all marginalized groups, Indigenous groups, women, feminists, they realize, crap, we were tokens. We were tokens under this liberal government, and he lied to us. Pierre Poilievre will not fight for something. He will not go to bat for something if he does not have the facts in front of him. He is fact driven, and that is how he makes decisions. And sometimes when that happens, because of what we've been under for the last 8 years, you have to rethink what you thought you knew because you were told something. And all of a sudden, this guy comes in and says the quiet part out loud and has courage. And he has courage to say things that nobody else really wants to say and to challenge what we were told. And I think women are very good and respect very much, back to that first question you asked me about what kind of mom I was, honesty. Feelings are not facts. And if you ever want to, and Kusie knows this, if you ever want to go and have an argument or call Pierre on something, you better have your facts and your data backed up behind you. And what has happened under this Trudeau government has not worked. And the data is in, it is all laid out, my friends. The cost of living is through the roof. You can't get a house. Public safety is brutal. We have one person who's commenting in the comment section of a local Indigenous woman in my riding who was murdered. And the guy who murdered her he's not being charged. Like, that's what mothers want. They want their children safe. They want to know that their children have a future. They want they want to know that their children will be able to have a happy, successful life. And that's what he is promising to give you. And that's why I think moms need to buy in to Pierre Poilievre.
I really like what you said about the facts, but what really resonated with me there was your piece about the truth, because the truth is often really hard to hear and the truth is often really hard to face, but a mom always knows the truth. That I think that really resonates with me when you talk about the truth. And you're right. I do think Justin Trudeau used millions of people. I tried to fool millions of people for a very long time. And like you said, they are starting to recognize it, that it was not the things he promised that he would do, and the things he said he was achieving were not true. And so I really like that piece about how Pierre offers Canadians the truth. I fundamentally believe this as well. And there will be people in other political parties, there will be the media, there will be the pollsters that try to distort the truth and try to present things which are not the truth. But you're right. I feel he fundamentally makes Canadians face the truth and face the reality of where we are. And that's hard to hear. But I also think we're in a place now, which is so bad, as you've talked about, the cost of living, inflation, streets not safe, people not being able to take transit, no housing for people, people not being able to go downtown, that they are at the point where they're willing to face the truth, where they are willing to look deeper and to really evaluate, to face the truth. So some deep stuff there, Michelle Ferreri, but I think you're right. I totally think you're right. All right, I will move on to the next question from Bryn. Bryn says, how on earth are families supposed to make it? Gas and groceries are obscene right now, and the government thought it was a good time to introduce yet another carbon tax. They offer us a measly grocery rebate, and this, of course, was something that was in the recent budget, to make it look like they're doing something when all they are really doing is making inflation worse. When does the CPC think, what does the CPC think of this pathetic excuse for relief? And in fact, I think it just builds upon the argument that you just gave in terms of not facing the truth, in terms of the cost of living. And we talk a lot in the caucus and in the House of Commons about the use of food banks, about how Canadians are skipping meals, all of these sorts of things. So it seems to me like Bryn has an idea, and she definitely recognizes that these things are not useful. Perhaps you can sort of expand upon that further.
Yeah, for sure. I think Bryn gave her answer in the question, and she said these pathetic relief measures, that's what we think. We think they're pathetic. So I think that's, I think she nailed it. I think she recognizes that, you're just putting fuel on the fire, right? And I think that's the reality. So how do we propose to fix it? Well, first thing is you've got to get rid of them, right? And then I think that's where people get frustrated. Well, how do we do that? Like, it seems like he's like Teflon, like nothing seems to stick. This guy just, does one thing after another. And it is super, super frustrating because the NDP have a major role to play in all of this, because they are propping him up, because this is probably the only time in Jagmeet's life where he's going to have this much power. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens when we come back on Monday, because what has happened with this special rapporteur, like, this is the NDP's moment to say enough. Like, when your foreign interference is putting your country in jeopardy, like, they're going to have to step up. But in the meantime, I think everybody on the ground has to start having these conversations, and these tough conversations of like, well, are you happy? Because I think there's an element of shame, if I can be honest with you, Kusie, because I think people voted for Trudeau and they're ashamed because they got duped. And that's a bad feeling. Like, you feel bad because you thought the person was the right person for the job.
Yeah.
You thought he was going to do what he said he was going to do. You bought it. You bought into it. And now you're embarrassed, right? Because so you do one of two things. You either double down and go, no, he's great. He's the best thing ever. And he's great. And he's a good person. Or you say, I screwed up. Okay. I can change my mind. I'm allowed to do that. And actually knowing better, when I know better, I do better. And so I think, shame takes on a lot of emotions, and it's very powerful, right? Like, it's a very powerful, well, I'll just double down and be like, no, I can't admit I was wrong. God, my ego can't handle that. Well, yes, your ego can, and it's okay, because maybe you used to like red Jello and now you like green Jello. I don't know. Like, it's okay. You can change your mind. Like, it's okay. So I think it's a matter of just recognizing the terrible leadership this country is under. And I used to think that was like, oh, don't be so dramatic. But in my 18 months of being elected, there's no other word to describe it. Like, it is terrible, and we need to fix it.
It is. No, you're right. It's funny you say that. When I first arrived on Parliament Hill, it felt very dramatic to me.
Yeah, you're like, God, everybody, the sky's falling.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. No, but I think you're right. I'd say over the 6 years that I've been elected, I've sort of gotten to that place as well, where you're obviously just so attuned to, as you said, like the marketing campaign of the Liberals and the extent that they will go to maintain power, that it's hard not to get emotionally attached to it and to feel very passionate about the necessity for change, because you've seen sort of the endless means that this government will go to, and as well the NDP, in an effort to maintain power. And I think that was just another example of this week with David Johnson's report. So you're right. And I think you touch upon something which is really important, which is like, if you've never voted Conservative before, but you're not happy with the way things are going, or you feel as though the Prime Minister and this government promised you so much, and yet you look at your life and you wonder, why can't I buy whatever I want at the grocery store? Why can't my kid get a house? Why can't I go downtown safely? It's okay, like you said, to admit, you know what? I thought this was the way to go. It's not the way to go. And so I'm going to try something else. And I would say that Michelle and I are extending you like a personal invitation to look at the Conservative platform, to look at Pierre Poilievre, to look at our caucus, to spread this message with your friends that you are not happy with the way things are going. And someone once told me, if things aren't going well, you have to do something different. And so maybe it's time for Canadians to do something different. It is time for Canadians to do something different. But I don't think, like you said, they have to feel ashamed about making that change and making that decision and that choice in their life for a better future.
I
Okay,
think so.
go to my next question, which is from Dana, excuse me. My son and his generation will be the ones paying off the $1 trillion debt. What is CPC doing to get through to young people so they understand the burden that they will carry as a result of Trudeau's policies? And I think you and I had talked about this before, how this is another part of the lie and of the not truth telling, which is sort of the immediate gratification of whatever the program is, or the thing they put in the window, or the promise that they make, or the slogan that they have that they never follow through on with anything concrete to improve Canadians' lives. So how do you think that Pierre is reaching out to young Canadians who are worried about things like student loans and I guess their entire future? How do you think he's making that connection with them?
I love this question as well. I just want to preface this. I don't know if this Zoom meeting is going to quit at 8 p.m. my time, Eastern Standard Time, which would be 5 p.m. I think your time. But it just says we have 3 minutes left. So I'll answer quick.
Okay.
If we lose you, we didn't hang up on all of you, just so you know. So I was recently sitting around with my nephew. He's 26 years old. I was sitting with all of his friends. They all have either a college diploma or a university degree, or a couple of them work in the Canadian Forces. Good jobs, really good jobs, high-paying jobs. Each one of them, none of them had a house. Most of them were sharing a room in a house, paying $800 for a room in a house with multiple people. And I said, I just can't even fathom that, because when I was 24, it was like your goal was to work toward a house. Do you even have that vision? They said, no. I said, that must be so depressing, because if you don't have a goal every day when you wake up, if you don't have little goals, big goals, medium-sized goals, it is very hard to stay motivated in life, to either go to work or to do something. And so they said, yeah, but Pierre Poilievre is saying, we're going to help get the cost of living back under control. We're going to come in and be the fiscally responsible conservatives that people desperately need right now. You know, it's not going to be easy, and nothing easy is worth doing anyway, because exactly to your point, short-term gain, right? Something, yeah, like this blizzard tastes really great right now, but guess what that's going to do to my body or my heart or my weight or what? Like you have to do the work to get the results. And so I think he's resonating with young people because they know that what's happening right now doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I think that is a great note to end on, since imagine we have less than a minute left. But anyway, Michelle, we had a lot of technical glitches here. I'm very sorry about that. And as well, I'm very sorry to anyone who was joining us to watch, but it was really great getting to know you in this in this last, I guess what ended up being 44 minutes, but thank you so much for joining me. Once again, this is Michelle Ferreri. Go and follow her on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and be sure to sign up for her wonderful show, People Before Politics. Michelle, thank you very much for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your constituency week.
Thank you so much, Kusie. It's an honor and a pleasure. And if you're watching this on my Facebook, we had to switch to mine, so it might seem really weird that Kusie's like promoting me on my Facebook. That's not what we intended for this to happen. So
I'll
just
promote
so you know.
Anywhere, Michelle Ferreri.
So, but I'm going to do the same to you. So everybody who wants to follow Stephanie Kusie, you have to do the same and follow her. She's a brilliant mind in terms of foreign affairs, the Treasury Board. She understands how the finances of this country work, and she understands how awful this prime minister is at managing your money. So that's why she's a rock star, and she dresses really nice too.
Right back at you. All right. Have a great evening, Michelle. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks to
Kusie.
everyone for watching. Take care.
Thank you so much to everybody who joined. Really appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.